What up, YouTube? It's your boy Banks, and we back in the building. You feel me? It's True Talks, cause True Talks. All right, let's get straight right into it. So you already know, man. Obviously, you gotta understand something, man. Like, we're gonna dive straight right into it, cause I'm not liking what I'm seeing, and I'm gonna give in-depth breakdown as much as I can about the Nets and what's going on. Obviously, their struggles, and I'm not gonna overreact, because again, it's not like these people are comparing this to the Lakers. It's not like the Lakers have a play style issue, so that's there for the end of time. They haven't actually figured it out with all three of them in terms of AD, LeBron, and Russ in the game together, like the mesh. In terms of how the defense is going to guard you and what's going to work. They're living right now in their weakness, right? Like, as I anticipated with that roster coming together, because LeBron and Russ are the same type of dynamic. Obviously, LeBron's a way better version, but they're the same. The play style, the way they play, and it's the same dynamic in terms of where they score for, where they operate, or how they score. Obviously, LeBron can have, when he's hot, add better bag and shot creating bag, but the fact is where their strengths are and where their weaknesses are the same. Now, the amount and the level and the severity of the weakness is different, because Russ shooting is way worse than LeBron shooting. But you still, in terms of weakness, would force LeBron to shoot, right? Same with Russell. You force Russell to shoot. The chances of LeBron hitting the shot is way better than Russ, but it's still a weakness for LeBron is his shooting. A weakness for Russ is his shooting. So when you have two guys with the same weaknesses and the same strengths on the court at the same time, that is a play style clash, because the defense is now, and not only that, you want AD to shoot too in terms of threes. So you have three guys that have the same weaknesses on the court, and that means only two guys who might have strengths is shooting. Stay home on them, force these three to play in their weakness and live in their weakness, and they have to live in their weakness to enable the other guy to be in his strength. So that's a play style clash that will never be solved. You could try and manipulate it, you could find ways to, go around it, but that's a play style clash that will never be solved, because the redundant play styles in terms of Westbrook, then Bron, then even AD, even his weakness is similar to them. You have too many parts that are the same in terms of the heels, right? That's why they're able to win 2 rings, because Bosh at least was a Kevin Love type of shooter. He now just lived in being a 3-point shooter. He actually shot well from 3. So his weakness that you would think would be his weakness wasn't a weakness no more. So 2 guys had the same weaknesses in terms of Bron and Wade, but it was now only 2 guys. And even then, that's why they won 2 out of the 4. But everyone else could shoot drastically. So it's only 2 guys that couldn't. So you at least reduced the weaknesses. Now you're having multiple guys that can't shoot. We add Rondo to that. AD is not shooting threes like that, right? As much as I like his arsenal and his ability, it's mid-range, high post, and below. But his threes, you want him to shoot that. He's been 33, 32%. Like, he's not been high 3-point shooter ever, basically, right? So if he's out there shooting, that's beautiful, right? So then you add the Rondo struggle. Then you add Westbrook. Then even LeBron, he's actually been shooting great to start the season, and they've been losing. That's why it's even more scarier. But for the most part, LeBron's weakness is shooting, right? You add DJ, DeAndre Jordan, Dwight Howard. Like, there's so many guys that live. So that's why I'm like, that play style is always going to exist. So them losing is different than the Nets losing, because the Nets, their offense has never been an issue, right? And we know that the play style is not an issue. It's more so other things. Those other things can be outweighed because their offense has always been top tier for the most part until this season. And that's where now you have questions in terms, because you still have seen what they've been. So them losing, you could get away with not overreacting, because you have seen success within them together. So it's different than the Lakers. So I just want to start out with that, because I've been seeing a lot of cap and, oh my God, Banks, you're just, I know people are going to say that. Why don't you're moving the goalposts? It's not the same. You have to dissect things with the full context around them, right? So now let's look at the Nets. Let's actually just analyze them right now. So KD is obviously still doing he was averaging before the last game. He was averaging 32, whatever. Now it's like, 30? He's averaging 30. He's still shooting 54% from the field. Always elite. He's always going to do that. And majority jump shots. That's why he's different. His 3 has dropped to 36, right? Because the threes he's taking is different than the threes he was actually having to take, even though it's still, he just missing them. We know that because with KD, anytime he shoots, he's just missing them. But I'm talking about the offensive flow. And that's where the naked eye isn't going to see that in terms of the people just watching the Nets, the offensive flow. So for the most part, like KD played only a couple games with Harden. He didn't play that much. Majority of his games when he played was with Kyrie. And you could see that even with the Bucks series. So let me explain it like this. KD playing off the ball with Kyrie versus with Harden are two different. It's not far off, but it's two different KDs. Because KD looks elite regardless, so people don't really see. But if you look at it, KD playing off the ball with Kyrie versus playing off the ball with Harden, his shots are more clean and more easier. It's always easy for KD, don't get it twisted. But it's more easier and more cleaner when he's playing with Kyrie than when he's playing with Harden. People see Harden's assists and would think that KD shots are more easier with Harden, when no, that's not the case, because you have to understand the tempo and the offensive flow. The offensive flow with Harden, he's going to dribble, do his pick and roll. If it doesn't work, he's going to have a mismatch. He's going to walk it out. He's dribbling for at least like 15 seconds out of the 24, right? So and it's slow tempo. It's a slow tempo game when you're playing with Harden. So he's going to dribble that because he's trying to get either his floater blow by, or he's going to get his step back, or he's going to get a mismatch. There's a chess match with Harden. So it's a slow chess match. It's a slow chess match. You know what I'm saying? You know when mans play chess and some mans their IQ is, everything. They're so elite that they can see your move before it happens. So when you make a move, they already know what they're going to do. So the game's moving at a high pace. But then mans who are kind of like, don't really play this often and actually trying to be smart, they have to overanalyze your move and kind of, okay, now that he did, let me do. So it's a slower game. So mans are thinking so much to make that next move, especially when you get to the later ends, right? The beginning of the chess match, mans are doing fast moves. But at the end of the chess match, even with 2 IQ guys, the moves are going to be longer. That's how Harden plays. He plays at the back end of the chess match, right? His moves are going to be longer. To make his decisions, it's a longer time frame that he uses, a longer window, right? Because he's playing a chess match, it's not no pawns anymore. He's actually doing the king, queen. You're trying to avoid the checkmate, or you're trying to get a checkmate. So his moves it takes longer because that's what he's doing, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, Harden is doing that. So now when KD gets the rock, a lot of the times it's going to be on the back end of the clock where he has to create under duress. Even though under duress for KD ain't really under duress, like he still makes that and he can live in that all day, every day, right? But the point is you're reducing your chances of success regardless of who it is when you have to score on the back end of the clock, because the defender knows you have to shoot, or regardless, stuff like that. So their defense is normally going to be better and tighter. You know what I mean? You're going to take a more of a contested shot as opposed to when you get it early in the clock and you're jab stepping in and out, you're doing a hezzy pull. Mans think you might drive. Like, you have more wiggle room to work with in terms of just the mental aspect you live on in terms of the defense. They know, okay, he might shoot, he might, you know what I mean? It's like, think of it like when you have a 3 to end the game, it's 5 seconds left on the clock. You have to score a 3. The defense knows you have to score a 3. So the defense is normally 9 times, 8 times, 7 times out of 10 going to win that battle, because they can play you tight. They can play you with hand check. They can play you aggressively, and they can get up in you more so because they know that whole paint is canceled. You only have this amount of room to score. You have to shoot a 3. So your ISO is going to be harder to get a shot off, as opposed to it's 5 seconds left and it's a tie game. You can score a 3 or you can score a 2. You're going to get a better look in that situation because mans can't play you tight. They could blow by you and then you hit a floater. You know what I mean? They have to think more and be more cautious in terms of defense. So that's the same type of, context that applies to the back end of the clock. When mans have you at the back end of the clock and it's 5 seconds left on the clock, you're going to 9 times, 8 times out of 10, you're going to take a contested shot. Now, for some that are elite, that doesn't matter, like a KD. But if you have to now equate it or, assess it versus another situation, when he plays with Kyrie, where when he's playing, the high octane, up tempo offense. Kyrie has the ball. He's bringing up the ball, right off the gate. Joe Harris comes off 2 screens, comes off a curl screen, comes off the next screen. Okay, if it doesn't work, now KD coming to set the screen, or KD comes off a curl screen, he passes to KD, doesn't work, pass back to Kyrie, and then now he's going to ISO. You know what I'm saying? If it doesn't work, and then he's going to pass to the next man, he jab step, then it's just, every man could do everything, right? They could score off, Kyrie could score off a screen, he can keep pulling the drop coverage. He could score with no screen, he could score off the screen, get an ISO, he could cook, he can score in every way. Kyrie could come off he could be a Joe Harris. Kyrie could come off a down screen, off 2 pin downs, and come off the curl and then pull, right? Kyrie could score in every way imaginable. KD could score in every way imaginable. Harden can't. Harden has to, I've been saying this from time, Harden can't come off screens, and Harden has to get the ball in ISO in order to score. So his offense that he runs is for Harden to score, and off of that, now he dimes. So that tempo is hella slow, which now limits Joe Harris, because they'll run Joe Harris come off the screen initially, but if it doesn't work, then Joe Harris can come set the screen. Then it's mainly a Harden type of slow tempo offense. Joe Harris is going to get his buckets sometimes, maybe in the half court here and there randomly, but it's going to be on the back end. Now a flare screen happened because Harden shit didn't work. Now a back screen happens, relocate, and then now maybe, Joe Harris maybe gets open or whatever. But for the most part, it's a slow tempo game. So KD's looks that he's getting in Kyrie's offense is way different. It's going to be, if he gets a shot, it's going to be, he could get it, catch and shoot. He could get a pump fake, one dribble. Like, he doesn't have to do as much to score with Kyrie being there, which is what you saw versus the Bucks in the first 2 games. That's why they blew them out, because everyone could score. Like, it's unguardable. That's why it was so efficient. It was so disgusting. It's unguardable. It's so easy. And not only that, you add the fact that Harden is basically a shell of himself as well too. So it wouldn't be as dangerous and as this bad if Harden was the normal Harden you've been seeing. But ever since Harden has injured his hamstring, he's been a shell of himself. Now, we don't know if the hamstring is fully healthy or not. I would assume that it's fully healed, because why would he be on the court if it wasn't fully healed? They wouldn't allow that, right? Especially the Nets. The Nets rather man's not play than play. We've seen that last year. So it's not necessarily an injury thing in terms of just actual, like, his body being injured. It's more so a confidence and the belief in the injury, kind of like the injury aftermath that plays on people's psyche. We've seen this happen with Derrick Rose when he first tore his ACL and stuff like that, and he was coming back. He actually was hella athletic and he was great. You've seen him in practice killing mans, but when he was actually on the court, he was hesitant to step on, to aggressively explode off of it, stuff like that, and that affected him. And now he actually ended up injuring other stuff. Now, it didn't mean he naturally just injured other stuff because of that. It just was unfortunate, but he wasn't as aggressive and he was hesitant. You're seeing that with James Harden. James Harden relies a lot on his first step explosion, right? You see when he does this through the legs, he has one series. He does this through the legs, and he blows by. So it's not, he's shifting you. So once he sees you react, once he does this through the legs and you play up, then he blows by. If you play back, then he step back. So he's doing it through the legs to lull you to sleep, to see how you play it. Then off that, he quickly moves, whether it's a step back or whether it's a blow by into the floater or euro or alley, right? So his game relies off the first step, right? Because of how his package works. So when you look at that, if he's not able to get his first step and he's cautious of how he's going to explode and he's overthinking it, because remember, how he injured it is off exploding. Remember when he went to the paint and when he faced the Bucks in the first couple minutes when he was exploding and do a euro going to the paint, that's how he injured his hamstring when he thought it was good. So then ever since then, he's just, now when he even came back by force with KD in the playoffs, right, in the last back end, you've seen, that he just wasn't the same, obviously because he was injured, but now your look is like, you don't see, it's not too far off, even though he's moving, but he's not too far off in terms of just the hesitancy, right? You could see that. So now Harden is not even the Harden. Look at his percentages. Harden is dog. He's shooting. James Harden is averaging only 16.6 like a role player. That James Harden be averaging 30, fam. Right? Especially when it's only 2 guys, he's averaging 30. With 3 guys, he might average 25, 23, 24, 20. But with 2 guys, he's averaging 16. That's literally like you cut off half the offense and now, like, you know what I mean? And he's still only getting 8 assists. 33% from 3, 36% from the field. Do you know how atrocious that is? That is atrocity at its finest. 36% from the field. Man say 45% is inefficient. Now he's 10 points below that. 10 percentage, dog. Even 40 is hella atrocious. 36? 36 is what men shoot from 3 as average. You're doing that from the field? Like, that is, dog, that's atrocious. And not only that, you add the fact that he's not getting foul calls. So when Harden is grounded, and even if he's a shell of himself, he could get away with still looking elite because he's going to get the, he's going to get the hook. He's going to get that. He's going to get the sweep through. He's going to get fouls and go to the free throw line a lot. So his average is going to increase. So now you take away his free throws, which the majority of his game was predicated on him shooting free throws. Let's be honest. And I like Harden, but let's be honest. So now you erase that by maybe 3/4, which means he's now, not only do you erase that, that's gonna add to missed field goals, because those miss when he sweeps through and throws it up, it doesn't count as a field goal miss because he's actually going to the free throw line. It was a foul. So now those same non-fouls that he's not getting are actually added misses to his field goals because he's shooting that shit. Hey, those are misses. Those are like 4, 5, 6 misses, right? So that adds to your field goal percentage. So that even drops. So this is what man's aren't thinking about or actually equating. And now he's not actually going to the free throw line. So those free throws actually are erased. Your field goal percentage is actually dropping, getting more dropped. And then now you add the fact that he's not blown by his step back. He's grounded. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's actually worst case scenario for Harden. Because at least when this rule changed, if he was 100% healthy, it might be a different game. He might not sweep through because he blew by you. He might use his body shield and get a different type of and one that actually looks like a basketball, natural movement. He might find a new way to finesse because he's naturally healthy. He still has his quick first step. But now you don't have your quick first step. At the same time, you lose your quick first step or the confidence in your quick first step. It's the same time they change the rules. Worst case scenario for Harden. Worst case scenario for Harden even looks worse than what people even anticipated. And that's what's happening right now. It's the combination of both happening at the same time is why he looks this fugazi. That's hella fugazi. You know what I'm saying? And then so now when you have a shell of yourself Harden with the slow tempo Harden, then you're giving it to KD last and second, you're sussing him, which is why his threes are way more contested than they would be. His rhythm is a little bit off than what it would be. And yet he's still shooting 54%. You know what I'm saying? But it's just the tempo, the offensive play. That's why when you see when Harden's out the game and Patty Mills comes in and it's KD, you see that's when he eats the most, if you're actually paying attention. That's when Patty Mills now eats the most. Joe Harris now eats the most if he's in. Bruce Brown, whoever, LaMarcus Aldridge, every man eats the most because it's high octane. We're moving now. Bare screens. And KD's more so can go back to Bucks KD, right? When Mans was injured from game 5, 5, 6, 7. And that's what the question is now, left now. Is do you go back to that KD? Because basically that's the Harden you have right now. That's the Harden you have in game 5, 6, 7. Do you go back to that KD where you maximize his offense, where KD's now the ball handler, he's initiating offense, and let James Harden just play off the ball, whatever, and maximize KD's output? That's where they were able to win, almost won 2 out of 3 games. Obviously, if KD's foot wasn't on the line, but you maximize KD's output, which actually helped the team and maximized the team. You know what I'm saying? Jeff Green was able to be maximized and he ate, right? With, the shooting he did, etc. But that's kind of what they're living in. But they won't go to that. It's do you really go to that this early in the season and increase KD's chance of getting injured, being hella fatigued, stuff like that? I'm not saying playing the same amount of minutes. I'm just saying when he's on the court, he's ball handling, he's initiating, you maximize him. Is that what they have to go to? Maybe eventually, if Harden doesn't get out of this funk and figure it out and get the confidence in his leg, then maybe you go to that and then you just rock with it. And then James Harden does himself when KD's on the bench. But when they're in, you maximize KD. You know what I'm saying? So it's I don't know if that's the route that you run. That's what you go into. But at this point, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of tough to actually, it's kind of tough to just keep watching this and keep watching this play out. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to see that. It's kind of not. It's damn, man. James Harden is really looking hella atrocious right now. And this is where I've never had worry about the Nets ever. But if Kyrie's not coming back, that's the difference between Kyrie and Harden. I've always told you. That's why I've always had Kyrie on the higher hierarchy. It's not about, people look at the points per game that they've been doing. Kyrie's never been in that situation to just kill outright and average 30 because he's always had bare other scorers with him. When he was in Cleveland, you already know what it was. When he went to Boston, there was still Tatum, there was still Brown, there was still Hayward. You know what I'm saying? There was still Rozier. There was still ball dominant ISO guys that are trying to get their own bucket. So, you know what I mean? Then the time where he maximized himself was when he went to the Nets before without anybody. When KD wasn't there and KD was injured and he was able to, he was dropping 50s. You see him maximized. But he got injured, didn't play the full season. So, I can't use stats to kind of equate when your mans are elite, you don't really use stats. Let's be honest. That's really when the eye test comes in. How Kyrie plays, he can play in any offense. He can play in any way, any shape, ball handle. He can play make. He can do whatever. He can play in any type of way because he has no limitations to his game. That's the guy I'm always going to take to a guy that can play one way. Or a limited version. Even if he tries to play a next way, he's still limited in, his strengths are his strengths, basically. He has a lot of weaknesses. No mid-range bag. Like, even if his leg is destroyed like that, you would think, even when he goes to post up, he's still trying to, it looks like bully ball, YMCA, he, running into the paint. He's not really doing no post fade, no post bag Harden. And I'm not roasting hard. I'm just being real, yo. I'm just being real. Harden is an elite scorer in his way that he scores, yes. But outside of that, is he an elite scorer? In terms of, can he do a dribble pull-up? Can he pull up in the gaps off the screen and roll? Can he come off a down screen and catch a pump fake, one dribble pull? Can he come off a down screen, curl off, and, plant his foot right, 1, 2, left, right? Or for him, it will be right, left, maybe coming off the left side. You know what I'm saying? Coming off the left curl, right, left pull, left hand into a drift, into a fade, off the screen. And, curl off the midi like what Joe Harris be doing. Can he do that? Reject the screen, drift back to the corner, catch it, pull. Can he do all these off-ball movements? Can he jab, step, pump fake, one dribble, pull, right to left, pull, you know what I'm saying? In and out, pull. Can he do all these takes, man? Escape dribbles, pull, can he do that? Step back in the midi, can he, I've seen him before, but now, I'm talking about now, can he do that? It's so far removed from his game, he doesn't even apply it. So, when you look at it from that perspective, they have some. This is the most worried I've ever been about the Nets, and still I'm not as worried because I know if they have to switch it up to put KD at the ball handling and let's maximize KD, they will do that. But I don't want them to do it right now. It's too early. I'm gonna give Harden the benefit of the doubt because he was injured. I'm gonna let him get his confidence back. But by Christmas break, if this is if Mans is 500 by Christmas break. They gotta do something, and they gotta find a way to get Kyrie back on the floor, or take away that and let him play the road games like you needed him to. So at least you can maximize some of your wins. You get what I'm saying? They're gonna have to maneuver this differently. Kyrie at the end of the day is winning right now because he's home, and you're seeing KD. They miss him. KD knows. KD really knows. KD knows for real. If you're just watching, it's just two drastic games, man. It's drastic games when I look at it. That's why they were eating. When you look at KD, people overreacted to KD eating with Harden in regular season those times. Now, again, if Harden was more so Harden in terms of his quick first step, he will find a way. He will get his 30, but that's the foul calls. But again, he will still get 26 off step backs and his first blow by, even without fouls, because his quick first step is basically unguardable, not just by itself because of his lull to sleep, right? That is just unguardable. So, but when Harden is not himself, that's the problem. That's the problem. That's the root of it all. So we'll see how they do, man. They'll see how they actually you gotta be really worried right now if you're a Nets fan, right? And your worried meter has to have increased. Now it won't go to 10 out of 10, but it's not at 1, most definitely. And it's not at 3. It has to be mid. It has to be at least 5. At least 5. So we'll see how they kind of see how it transpires. We'll see how it plays out. But for the most part, man, dog, this is not what elite looks like, man. It's not, man. I'm analyzing this differently, but we'll see, man. You already know it's True Talks, because True Talks. Share, like, and subscribe. We out here. There's no doubt here. There's no drought here. You feel me? I appreciate y'all. You already know. Click the notification button. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. Like I said, click the notification button so you know when I'm here, because I'm here. You feel me? I appreciate y'all. You already know. And I'm out, man.